Welcome to the Wealthy SAP Consultant Podcast with your host, Anita and Anello, where we empower SAP consultants to deliver premium services by showcasing their expertise to the world. In each episode, we dive deep into strategies, tips, and success stories to help SAP consultants like you elevate your consultancy game, attract high-paying clients, and maximize your revenue potential. Get ready to unlock the secrets to success in the SAP consulting world and position yourself as a top-tier consultant. To connect further and explore personalized strategies for your consulting business, schedule a strategy call with our team by clicking the link below. Enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Wealthy SAP Consultant Podcast with your host, Anita and Anello. Today, I'm joined by a friend of mine, Ed Kless. And it was so fun, Ed, when we first started talking just a little bit ago, one of your first questions are like, Anita, do I know you? Have I known you for like 20 years? Because we've run in some of the same circles. We know all the same people. It was super fun. I felt like I just connected with an old best friend. So welcome to the show today.
Oh, thank you so much, Anita. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. So Ed, tell us a little bit about your background and your company, and then we'll dive into the show.
Well, I have had a very interesting career trajectory. I started out working for a CPA firm on Long Island, where I'm originally from, but I only took 2 accounting classes. So I worked in what was called their management advisory services. This is way back when. After that, I ended up starting my own company. We were a Great Plains partner for almost 10 years, sold my interest in that company in 2000, went to work for Sage for 20 years. And I like to say that I had the best job at Sage, which was because I did one job and got 3 times the benefit, because I was getting a benefit, certainly making benefit for Sage because they paid me, but then also our partners, but then also because I was helping our partners make their businesses better. I think I was helping customers in the end too. So my joke was, it was like Norm getting the beer tasting job on Cheers. You know, it's like that much pleasure from one job. But I recently have started my own thing, the Meta Consulting Academy, and looking forward to the conversation. And yes, we have run in a lot of the same circles and have a lot of the same interests. So this is going to be fun. Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, tell us a little bit about Meta Consulting. Like, what's the scoop there in the academy?
Yeah. So this is a kind of a new thing, and it's actually morphing a little bit every day. As you know, as being an entrepreneur, again, you're always trying to tweak things as you're moving forward. But the current tagline that I'm running with is that we turn professionals into consulting rock stars. We want to help them transform themselves from just being somebody who has a high technical proficiency in something to also being a consulting rock star. Because what I found, and I think we talked about this a little bit when we chatted previously, is that there's lots and lots of people with a high degree of technical proficiency in something, whether it's accounting, the law, even medicine and architecture and engineering, all of these things, but they never got what I like to call the block and tackle of consulting. And it's not for lack of trying. Now, there are some people that are purely technicians that have absolutely no interest in being consultants, and they should stay technicians. That's great. But for the people who have a desire to really add that layer of consulting to their mix, we turn them into consulting rock stars.
Okay, so what's your definition of a consulting rock star?
Yeah, so someone who understands a couple of things. One is that your questions are more important than the answers.
Good. Okay.
And that is the second is that the practice of what I like to call non-anxious present leadership. Okay. So lowering your anxiety about the situation, your own personal anxiety, even in high stress situations. Yeah. But being fully present for the person. This might be a little bit controversial, but it is different from something that I don't like, which is empathy. You hear the word empathy a lot, and here's why I don't like empathy. The word empathy originally it's a relatively new word in the English language. It came about in late 1920s, early 1930s. Started out in Gestalt psychology in Germany, and it meant, and as it was originally meant, it meant to feel with. And so what I hit my thumb with a hammer, and somebody else also feels the pain. Bill Clinton, favorite, I feel your pain, right? That was so that is him saying, I actually feel the pain that you are experiencing. Yeah. I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing. in a leadership position, because if now I'm feeling your pain, all we have now is two people in pain.
Okay.
Right? I like the more ancient word, which is compassion, which means to be present and with the person who is suffering. Pathos is, and passion, that means suffering. So you are with them, but you are supportive of their suffering. You are with them in your suffering, but you don't feel what they're suffering. Picture if the guy who landed the plane in the Hudson, Chesley Sullenberger, had felt empathy for the people in the back of the plane.
Okay.
And took on their suffering. Well, he would have crashed the plane, right? Not successfully crashed, as he later said, which is another phrase that I love. But if you think about that, I think so. That's an important distinction. Now, I know that the terms have morphed over time, and a lot of people, when they say empathy, mean compassion. But I just like to draw that distinction, because I think it's an important thing for people to recognize, especially in a leadership position or in a project position, where you have to make sure that you are managing your anxiety and keeping your anxiety low, because anxiety and creativity are always inversely proportional to each other. Right. The more anxious you are, the less creative you can be. And you can't turn on creativity because if you force creativity, it makes you more anxious. So what you need to do is lower your anxiety. So that's the pitch for that.
Wow, I love this. I love this, Ed. One of the things I'm thinking about as you're talking is, okay, so if I take a step back, and you said at the beginning of the conversation, so we have people that are consultants that are highly technical. That means they're like an expert or a genius in their space. That's awesome. But what we've noticed, and what you and I kind of chatted about earlier, is that the people side is it's equally important or more important, being able to understand, listen what's not being said, listen what is being said, but then come alongside somebody in the midst of an implementation project, because these projects are hard. Let's just be clear, right? We're generally asking our clients, the company that's installing whatever software solution it be, whether it doesn't matter, right? We're asking them to do their, let's say, 40-hour-a-week job, and then, by the way, do this part-time job of implementing a new software system on top of that. It's incredibly intense and incredibly can be painful if they move in the direction, like my area of expertise, of escalations. It can be really painful. But what I'm hearing you say, Ed, is that we're approaching the situation and teaching the skills of approaching a situation from a way that it's almost like what I see is you're teaching consultants to be able to come shoulder to shoulder next to me, not to take on my burden, but to come shoulder and shoulder to help me to be able to take that next step if I'm in the middle of an implementation project. Would that be like an accurate characterization?
Absolutely. And one of the, I'm very persnickety about language. And, one of the things that I think is important is to remember is that it is, and I even say customer rather than client. We can talk about that if you want a little bit, but it is their project. It is not your project. You are someday going to leave, hopefully. And they are going to be in charge. They are the one that is making the transformation inside their organization. Yeah. You are there as the guide, as the Sherpa, to help them get there. And I use Sherpa specifically because they are the guys that get people to the top of Mount Everest and down. And this is really important because there's a lot, and I know you've seen this, where you have people who come in, they quote implement, but they effectively leave them at the top of the mountain. Yeah. That's when they leave them. Yeah. We're like, okay, you produced your trial balance. Yeah, right. Bye.
Not your life. We
gotta go. We gotta move on to the next one to get the next person to the top of the mountain. You're like, how do I get down? No, that's good luck with that. There's a very funny story that's related directly to this. Sir Edmund Hillary, when I saw him actually at a Microsoft conference, this is going to be 25 years ago. Yeah. And it was just after they had discovered that the year before a group of climbers had actually made it to the summit of Mount Everest, okay, the summer before them. And but there was an avalanche or something, and they ended up perishing on the side of the mountain. And they found them, and they found their notes, and it was determined that yes, they proved it. And they asked Edmund Hillary about this. They said, "So, what do you think? That you weren't the first?" And he said, "Well, getting down counts too."
That's good. That's good. Okay. In the midst of like a software project, what's your definition of getting down? Like, what do you mean by that?
That is a fantastic question, and I think a part of it means what does the customer mean by getting down, right? It's really more their definition, but it's certainly not them just being able to produce a balance sheet and income statement or a trial balance or whatever that the thing is that says, okay, see, we proved that we're like. So this is the big challenge I see with you. 80% of the work is done to get to that point, right? But you're only achieving about 20% of the value, because in a way, you're only just getting them back to the state that they were in once you started, which is, I'm sure their old system was able to produce a balance sheet and income statement, right? So we're reverting them to the status quo. So the last 20%, where 80% of the value is often not done. And these are things like the honing of the system, right? Are we getting those specialized and customized reports? Are the dashboards that we showed them in the demo really being put into place? Or is that just something that's like, well, that's an extra now, because those are the things that are going to achieve the benefit. This is one of the reasons why I have this idea of having this thing called the value conversation up front with people, where we know what the desired end state looks like, what it is, and we're focused on those things. All right, this is what we're going to achieve, not just go live. We are going to achieve these things, and we are going to stay with you until these things happen. And this is often stuff that happens 6, 12, 18 months after they go live.
Yeah, I love that, because you know what else it does? It connects the conversation that we often have in the sales cycle to what's going on in the implementation cycle, to now you're live and you're actually, as a client, as a customer, you're actually reaping the benefits of what you in your mind perceived what the solution was going to do for you. So it does bring the whole thing full circle, right? And where, right, like some of the work that I do is to untangle some of these messes that happen during implementation. Gosh, I can see how the skill set that you're training consultants up in, it does, I can see how it's going to make them rock stars. Ed, do you notice a difference? This is kind of interesting. Do you notice a difference kind of like generationally on maybe somebody who's a little bit older and being able to hone these skill sets? Or what are you finding? Are you working with younger consultants that are maybe like in their 30s? And do they have like a different set of challenges when it comes to this arena? Because we're talking about a lot of soft skills. And while I don't necessarily agree with all of it, you see a lot of noise in the marketplace about younger generations and the way they communicate and all this kind of stuff. Are you seeing a difference in this arena?
Well, I want to be clear. I think there are differences in human beings at different stages of their life.
Yeah. I
don't think that there's all that much difference in generations, the way that we perceive them. I think that's a lot of hooey. To be honest with you, if you go back to the Greeks, they were complaining about the next generation. I mean, Epictetus. Yeah, Epictetus, I think, said, said, "Oh, these people are just out of control." I mean,
I know. I love that you said that, because I think the same thing. It's like a perspective has shifted, but has it really? Like, I don't, I'm sure like my grandparents' generation said something about the next generation. My parents said something about the next, and we're just morphing into what we are. But let's talk about personality styles a little bit.
Yes, no, and but I do think there are differences in where you are in your life and your ability. Now, what's weird about this is that I find it is people at the beginning of their career who are uncertain and want to prove that they have the skills, who oftentimes make mistakes and either guess or because they don't want to admit they don't know something when they're really young. But you know what's weird? The same thing happens to the folks who are older.
Yeah.
because they don't want to necessarily admit that they haven't seen something in the end. So it's the mid-career folks that I think are the most malleable to some of these things. That said, a lot of things that are important from a consulting behavioral standpoint. If you didn't have this as a teenager, as a kid, I don't know. I can teach you technical skills. I can teach you how to use XYZ product. That's the easy part. Can I teach you to have compassion? Can I teach you to understand that you have to show up and be professional? I can give you some insight. Yeah. But can I change that person? Maybe if they this is it. Do they have the desire to get there? Right. Then I think yes. But there's a lot of folks who don't. And that's where I said, look, I think we need technicians. But great technicians don't necessarily translate over as consultants. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of folks make, is forcing someone who's a technician. And here's let me give you a definition of technician. Technician is somebody who cares about solving the problem, about solving the technical problem. A consultant cares about solving the technical problem, but as you said earlier, also cares about the emotional well-being of the person with whom they're working. We have both experienced this either recently or back in the day. You call up technical support, which is what it's called, or what it used to be called. Now it's customer service, and there's some differences. But technical support, and you would say, the inventory valuation report is taking 40 hours to run. And the technician on the other line would say, is it right?
Yes.
And you're like, well, yes, it's right, but it's taking 40 hours to run. Right. And they're like, WAD, works as designed. I don't understand the problem, right? So you see the difference there, right? The technician it's right. What I don't understand. Whereas a person who's a consultant goes, oh, that must be a problem because they probably need this information faster than 40 hours.
Right. I love that. This is awesome. This is a great conversation. Especially with the characterizations. That's amazing.
Did I tell you I was a theater minor? I didn't mention that. I minored in musical theater, so that kind of explains everything now.
All come together for me now, Ed. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so question for you. Mm-hmm. Let's kind of dive in a little bit deeper about like teaching the skill sets, because I'm really intrigued by this. Like, I know that in my own career, and this is what I've noticed, like in training my team and stuff like that, is that if I'm able to cast the vision for them that what we're doing matters because it means the outcome of a business increase by putting in a new solution, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to be able to help them increase their profitability, increase their efficiency so that they can serve their customers more and better, right? And so if we kind of start from that perspective, at least what I have found is then it's actually helped somebody see, oh, I understand and I'm connecting what I'm doing for something else and actually how it's going to benefit me. Because many of us are really just focused on, well, how does this skill benefit myself, which is not a bad thing. I'm not putting that in a negative light at all. What I'm saying is that oftentimes I found that when I've cast the vision of why this is bigger than them, why it's more important than them, then that actually triggers a deeper desire in their hearts to say, wait a minute, I want to do better in the role that I'm in. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Talk to me about it. Like, what's your
Gosh, there is so much here. First of all, I believe part of the problem is the billable hour and the timesheet as the framework through which people have perceived their own value. So the thing that is valuable, that they're told is valuable, is their time. And that is false. That is completely false. That is not what is valuable. What is valuable to others is your knowledge, your insight, your ability to be compassionate. That is what valuable. Your ability to help a customer get peace of mind. That is what's valuable. And you can't put any of that stuff on a timesheet. Now, to back up a little bit, where it comes from, I think, is does the person that you're trying to along, yeah, and yes, I think if you paint the vision, it's helpful, but they have to have a piece starting inside them. Have you seen? I'm sure the Start with Why, the Simon Sinek Start with Why video that was really big about 15 years ago, and he says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So my personal why that I have honed over the course of many years, and it's changed, but is that I believe that entrepreneurs continue the work of creation.
I love that. Talk to me more.
Right. And I don't care if you think of creation as an explosion out of nothingness 13.7 billion years ago, 6 days in a garden and a day of rest, coming in on the back of a turtle and its turtles all the way down, whatever you got. The entrepreneurs continue the work of creation. And that the purpose of business is to create human flourishing.
Yeah.
Right. That's what business does.
Right.
And here's where I think people make the mistake. And I think this is the number one myth in all of business. And that is that business is a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
That somebody wins and somebody loses. Business is not a zero-sum game. It is a positive-sum game. Both sides are supposed to benefit.
Yeah.
That's how it's supposed to work. That is how value is created in the world. So if you look at the movie Wall Street, that is the worst movie to get an insight on what, because he's like, how many yachts can you water ski behind? How much is enough? And it's not a question of enough. More is good, greed, all of this stuff. That's I mean, Oliver Stone is a great director, but he's lousy economist. But honestly, the best movie, if you really want to understand, especially I think in a professional consulting, is Pay It Forward.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Pay It Forward is the movie that, to me, epitomizes what it means to be a professional consultant. You are enabling and helping others, sometimes even without their direct knowledge. Right. That was the point of the movie, is that they weren't supposed to know. Right. So you're actually working oftentimes with people that you're working directly with. And the benefit is not necessarily ultimately to them, although it does help them. But it ultimately helps shareholders of their company or management or leadership in their company. And yes, you're benefiting those, but it's also a progression of value that goes out to others. Yeah. And I think that that's so important to fully understand. If when we're focused on the fact that we are benefiting others, that's when it becomes a benefit to us, because it is the creation of value that creates price that then creates the benefit to you. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Go ahead.
It's very philosophical, I know, but yeah.
It's good. It's good. This is so interesting to me. I just had a conversation with a client last week and then again yesterday. And one of the things that we were talking about is around value. And instead of focusing on the hourly rate or the services that they provide, I was like, that sounds amazing. That's what we see in the marketplace. But when we really study marketing and the way people work and our businesses, what really causes our clients all across the board to want to draw near to us and want to get on the same side as us and want to listen to us to begin with is that when we are communicating the value that they want. So everybody wants the outcome that they want. They don't really care. And I mean this with all respect. They don't really care what your resume says or the expertise that you have. What people, all of people want is to be able to understand, if my mouth can communicate the value that I can bring to you, then actually the price is irrelevant because I can get you the outcome that you want. So when I'm communicating that outcome that's based on what you want, Ed, or what you want, Mr. Customer, or any of those kinds of things, then all of a sudden, wouldn't it make sense that if I can get you out of the pain and in the desired end result that you want for your organization, for your role, for your project, whatever that looks like, then all of a sudden the mind starts to shift and we get a different perspective. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, Anita, Ed, I don't know, Susie Bell, whoever that is. You guys actually have what I need. And then it actually shifts the conversation altogether. So I love what you talked about in terms of like the billable rates and the hourly rates, right? If my mind only says the project takes 40 hours and I got to bill 40 hours and I'm focused on actually the wrong thing entirely. But when instead I shift my perspective to be able to see what's the outcome I can help somebody else get, then they flourish, and then naturally I flourish, right? It's that law of attraction, right? There's natural laws at work here that sometimes we're not paying attention to. We're just kind of in the task, doing the thing, maybe doing what our bosses are telling us, or saying that the most important thing are the billable hours. And you're like, but wait a minute. No, nobody wants to have that conversation anymore, because all that means, that what that does is it makes you're kind of like then diametrically opposed with the, let's say the reseller is or consultant is working in this direction and all they're focused on are the billable hours to their organization, but their customers are like, but you're not communicating the value to me.
No, you're creating an adversarial relationship, because it's in my best interest to bill more hours. It's in your best interest for me to not bill hours. So by definition, we're in an adversarial relationship. So that's why we got to eliminate this. But just cycling back quickly to, and I had forgotten to make this point. So that's why I just, before I lose it, I think the mistake that people make is thinking that profit is the purpose of business. Wrong. The purpose of business is to do whatever your mission is, to create value for others. In my case, to improve the lives and business success of professionals, right? That's my purpose. The result of me doing that is profit. Yeah. Profit is the result. That's the result. It's the outcome. And people think, what'd you go into? Why are you in business? To make money? No. Yeah. Wrong. You're not. That's the result, right? But let me and on this whole value thing, I have this great story, because this is the moment that occurred to me. I will always remember this. It was 1996, and I was actually at an implementation that I was doing with a group in northern New Jersey. And this is 1996. You probably remember this. It was a demo. Right. Okay. And in 1996, a demo was an all-day affair.
Oh, yes.
Right. Do you remember this? It was really, Anita, right? It was prospect training is what it was. Like we would just keep showing them features and stuff until they're like, either shut up and I'll buy from you, or, oh, that one I really like. Yeah, now I'll buy. Right. So this guy, his name is Evan. He stands up about 2:00. So we're 6 hours into the demo. Right. And he's like, stop. He tells me, stop. I'm like, okay. He goes, Ed, this is great, but I kind of assumed that since this was an accounting system, it could print an accounts payable check. You didn't need to show me that. Yeah. Here's what I need. I need a report that shows me inventory turns by item category. Can you do that? And I went through the list of reports in my mind, right? The Alta Vista search at the time, not Google. We didn't have Google yet. and I'm like, no, there's not a report, but I'm really good at Crystal Reports. So I fire up Crystal Reports and I'm write out or joining, and I'm using the red, white, and blue template because it was near Independence Day. And I got the sample data going, and boom, I'm like, report like this. And he's like, yep, that's it. The inventory turns by item category. You got it. I'm like, fantastic. We get the deal. Yeah. It's a $60,000 deal, $30,000 in software, $30,000 in consulting, which is a considerable deal, right? That was like half the nut we needed for top tier. Yeah. And so we get this, and I'm thinking I'm a genius. Okay. Well, 6 months later, I'm at his office, and I'm probably working on the accounts payable check because it was not aligned properly, with the Oki Data 2410 printer. Remember that sucker? It was like, you knew work was getting done when that thing fired. I was like, now it's so uneventful now. It's like email. It's really not, right? And he says, Ed, I got to thank you. You know that report that you gave us? And I'm thinking, what are you talking about, Evan? Yeah, that report because I had to give it to him, because when did I do it? During the demo. Right. Right? I didn't even put it on the timesheet ever because it was during the demo. Right. Is the report you gave us, we've been able to figure out that because we had this information this year, we've increased our sales by 40%. Okay. They were a $10 million company. then now on a run rate for 14 million without a significant change to cost. So it was really almost 4 million in profit.
Right.
Right? What was that report worth to him?
A lot.
$4 million. What did I charge for it? Zero. I'm not a genius. I am an idiot. Right? And this is because what I am is I realized at that moment that something was wrong. I then discovered the work of a guy by the name of Mahan Khalsa, a book called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play, in which I found out that what I was a solutionist. Oh. I got pleasure out of providing solutions to people because it made me feel really good about giving them the solution.
Right.
And what he says is solutions inherently have no value unless you can understand what the value of the problem that you're solving is. A solution has no value. If I would have had the conversation with Evan to uncover the value, instead of saying to Evan, oh, yes, I can do this, or here's how. Instead, if I said, Evan, thanks for asking, we customize reports all the time.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah.
However, what we found is oftentimes there's different ways of getting information out of the system that sometimes require a customer report, sometimes don't, which is true, by the way, right? Would it be okay if I asked you a couple of questions as to what results you think you're going to get if you had this report?
Yeah.
And if I had asked that question, I don't think he would have come up with $4 million, but he would have come up with $1 million. He was the one who stood up in the middle of the meeting and told me to stop. Right? And could I have charged at a fixed price $100,000 for that implementation instead of the 60?
Yeah.
No question.
Right.
No question. Like not even a second thought.
Show him that you could 10x the value of what you were doing.
On that one report, forget about this flipping accounts payable check.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that.
Right. So that was the moment to me. And I mean, it took me years to unravel that and to discover that what I had done, that's what I had done wrong. But now I'm absolutely focused like a laser on, I can't help you until I understand the value of your problem.
Right. And I hope somebody who's listening to this today, I think you just unlocked something. I'm just going to declare that over the entire podcast and everybody who's listening. You just unlocked something huge for a group of people that are passionate about what they do, but now they see the bridge to be able to help them understand why the questions are so important that you mentioned earlier. The value conversation is so much more important. What's the outcome? What I was mentioning is what's the outcome I can get for somebody else? Because nobody cares until you can talk about the outcome you can get for them. They don't care about any of the other stuff. They don't care about a 6-hour demo. That sounds like I could think of, I just had oral surgery. I think I'd rather sit through oral surgery than a 6-hour demo. And it hurts to laugh and smile right now. But you know what I mean? Like, I know that this conversation right here, this segment of the conversation, just to unlock something huge for somebody else. Because all of a sudden in their mind, they can start to see the difference and kind of the path towards what we're talking about instead of having everything be about billable hours. Because we know at your average, I don't know how it is today. I know when I was working for other companies, right? I worked for SAP for many years, ran professional services, consulted for Sage, all these kinds of things. I know in those roles, oftentimes the requirement was that I had to bill 40 hours a week, and then I had to do my real job on top of that. So I was never working like a 40-hour work week was like a part-time job for me in what I was doing because of the requirements of the billable hours. So once we start to understand that we're really like this perspective shift, it just blows the doors open, not just on your, like, I don't know, the corporate, I think it's a little bit nonsense, the corporate line that says you can have work-life balance, all that kind of stuff. But just think, if you're working for an organization and you're listening to this podcast today and you're able to shift just ever so slightly, it'll change your trajectory in your career by being able to just make this one shift of moving from billable hours every week to the value and the outcome that I'm getting for somebody else. And then you could potentially have more time on your hands and have more time and money freedom, all the things that we really want. Right.
Absolutely. And if I could, what is so interesting about this is what I subsequently learned is, and this is really important, is that this is economic theory. This is not economics now. There's a thing called the labor theory of value. Mm-hmm. It was put forward by a German economist in the 1800s, and it was actually built upon by some of the work that actually Plato, Aristotle, and some of others had done earlier. But this guy really solidified it. And what the gist of it is that the price of something, the value of something, is equal to the amount of labor that it takes to put the thing together. So if I've got this baseball here, right? The value of this baseball is the time that it took to create the horsehide, create the stitching, wrap it in metal, do all of it, and the labor that it took to put the thing together. Here's what's incredible. A German economist's name, Karl Marx. When you bill by the hour, you're actually a practicing Marxist.
Oh.
because what you're doing is you're saying that my value is equal to the amount of labor that I am injecting into this situation. Yeah. And this is completely false, right? Because as I said, nobody wants, not a single customer of either one of us, of anybody ever wanted an hour.
No. They
did not want to buy an hour. They wanted the results of the hour. That's what they want. They wanted the results, not the hour. They did not buy hours. Peter Drucker, the greatest management mind ever, said something really profound. Sell what your customers buy. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. And it's like, well, no kidding. But if you're putting hours on a timesheet, that's not what they're buying. So
they're buying real solutions that they want to be able to take.
They're buying those results. That's what they want. They don't care how long. They really do. The only reason they care how long is because you tell them to care.
Right. Which is so funny because then we go back to that. We make ourselves like diametrically opposed. We just
that's the
podcast episode on this of how do you align yourself as customer and partner together, because the reality is you are going shoulder to shoulder and you do have information that each side needs. And there is a certain amount of time that you want to be able to spend to have that knowledge transfer, that expertise transfer. But when we put it in those terms, it kind of messes everything up.
And it's a relationship, right? We all have said this is about and we'll even say we are looking in for a long-term relationship, blah, 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 blah. Relationships are not built on how much time am I spending with you. Mm. It's built on the depth of the conversation. And sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. Yeah. Right. But you can't go deep in with somebody based on the clock.
Right.
Right. So
interesting.
Yeah. And so I really think that the billable hour and specifically the timesheet is the cancer of the professions. It is what's eating us alive from the inside.
Right. It creates what I've noticed in the project work that I do. It creates such distrust.
Yes.
So there's no foundation to be able to go forward in the organization and the partner and the consultant. And so, I mean, I don't know, like how can you move forward towards success when when the trust is getting eroded every single week? The other thing too is that we'll just like openly acknowledge, like there's also a lot of work on all of the kinds of projects that we're discussing, ERP software projects. There's a lot of work that's happening in the background that's not effectively communicated to clients. Mm-hmm. So then right. And so you can see how like perpetually what we're doing was we're continuing to like fester this mistrust of, well, you showed up on a call and it was only 15 minutes and you billed me for that. And then you did a whole bunch of work in the background, did all this magic sauce and then produced it and said, aha, but I don't really, as your customer, I don't really understand I just know my business. And I don't really even, sometimes I don't even care about what it took to be able to produce the result. But when I
don't.
Right? I just wanted the outcome. I just wanted the outcome to be able to go and do something amazing that I can do in my business now in a newer solution that I couldn't do 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever.
Right. You don't walk into a Starbucks thinking, I wonder if they have their cost structure figured correctly. I mean, it's like you don't care. You just want the cup of coffee for the $5 or whatever it is that you're paying, right?
Oh, I think.
But think about, and I just think about that adversarial relationship. Think about if you paid for flying on a plane by the hour, right? And, if it was something like this, okay, well, it's $1 a minute for the flight. How long is this flight going to be? Somewhere between, 2 hours and 3 hours, depending on what. Well, a lot of situations. We got weather. There's the jet stream. Are we flying into it? But don't worry. We train our pilots to try to get into the jet stream so that it, really pushes them along a lot faster. Right. Well, yes, their compensation model is totally built on how long they keep the plane in the air, but pay that no mind.
This is insightful and hilarious.
Just trust. You got to trust our pilots. They're the best trained in the industry. What are you talking about?
No, they're not. Best trained at what?
At what? Keeping the plane in the air, because that's how they get paid.
Yeah. That's funny. All right. And as we get close to wrapping up our time together, you've dropped so many golden nuggets for us today. Anything else that you want to add on?
My tongue-in-cheek response to this, the wrap question on this is my advice is to replace advice with curiosity.
Oh, okay.
Right.
About that. What do you explain that a little bit more?
It's from Peter Drucker as well. And when he was asked what made him so successful as a business management consultant, he said, I replaced giving advice with being curious. And being curious is what led me to all of these insights. And even the word education, actually means to draw out of, like extrude. So I have this also the sense the customer really has all of the answers. Your role is to extract it from them. Yeah. They've got what they need. It's their business. It's not yours.
Right.
You're just drawing the answers out of them. And we do that best by questions, not by giving answers.
Yeah. I'm chuckling in the background now because I'm thinking of some custom project that I just finished up where one of the consultants every single time, like bar none, almost every time, he would get into the call and they'd start with a question. The customer would talk about something and then he would immediately have a response. And I was like, did you just hear what they said? Because if you maybe, I don't know. So I pulled him off to the side and kind of coached him a little bit because that's part of what I do. And he was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? It's like, you're not actually even listening. And this guy's an amazing consultant. Like he's very technical. He's very, very skilled, genius guy. Like not nothing. He's bringing a lot of expertise to the table, but it was just so funny listening and kind of watching this happen. And I was watching it happen like over and over and over again. First couple of times I'm like, is that really what's going on? And then, of course, I talk to the client. And they're like, I don't ever feel like he listens to me.
And that's a big problem. This is what I'm Catholic, so we have this thing called the Prayer of Saint Francis, right? So, and one of the lines is to be understood, then to understand, right? So, I seek really to understand rather than be understood. Yeah. And I think that's another thing that we have to bring to the table is are we, because it is one of my favorite questions is from a woman by the name of Margaret Wheatley. And she asks this because it's something that you can really think about. When was the last time you experienced good listening?
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot. Like, am I experiencing good listening here? Is the person that I'm interacting with right now, are they a good listener or not?
Yeah, that's so powerful. I love that. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
How can people get in contact with you if you want to know more about Meta Consulting Academy?
Yes. So metaconsultingacademy.com. That's and that's a lot of letters. If you just want to shoot me an email and we can kick it off from there, ed.kless@gmail.com. KLE. I'm the only Ed Kless in the world. I do check this occasionally. My parents were really into differentiation and marketing. No, I'm kidding. But it is convenient that if you search for my name, you'll find me. It's the
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we'll make sure and put your links in the show notes for the episode. So thank you
Great.
so much for being here today. And I just want to take a moment to honor you and what you're doing, the work that you're doing to be able to help consultants to make this shift and to be better at their skill set, honing their skill set, improving their skill set, to be those rock stars that you talked about. I just want to honor you for showing up and doing that work every single day. You're amazing. You're making a difference in the sphere that you're in, and I'm sure you're changing lives. And both the consultants that you coach and help and teach, and then also the kind of like the ripple effect of the clients and customers that they have a chance to serve. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
You're most welcome. That's the idea. So great. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Awesome. Okay, Ed, thanks so much for being with us today.
Great.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Wealthy SAP Consultant Podcast with your host, Anita and Anello. We hope you gained valuable insights and strategies to take your consulting business to new heights. Remember, by showcasing your expertise and delivering premium services, you can attract high-paying clients and increase your revenues while serving your customers at the highest levels. To dive deeper into implementing these strategies and overcoming challenges in your consulting journey, schedule a strategy call with our team by clicking on the link below. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll continue to provide you with actionable tips and advice to excel in the SAP consulting industry. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, keep shining in your consulting business.